How do you mourn a voice that pierced through silence and touched the soul? How do you say goodbye to someone whose art felt like a private conversation with your own heartbreak? These are the questions fans around the world are asking as they grapple with the devastating news of Rebekah Del Rio's passing at the age of 57. Her death has left a deep void in the worlds of film, music, and emotion itself. Known for her unforgettable performance of Llorando in Mulholland Drive, Rebekah wasn't a global superstar in the traditional sense, but she didn't need to be. Her voice, aching with vulnerability and power, made her unforgettable. One song, one moment, and the world stood still. Fans and fellow artists alike have taken to social media and press to share their grief. Many described her voice as otherworldly, soul-breaking, and a once-in-a-lifetime sound. Tributes have poured in, not just for her artistic legacy, but for the woman behind the voice, kind, real, and deeply spiritual. Family members, too, have spoken out in quiet heartbreak, recalling Rebekah as a loving soul whose music was her way of healing and helping others heal. She had faced deep personal tragedy in her life, most notably the loss of her son, and channeled that pain into music that offered comfort to those who heard it. Now, in a cruel twist, the world mourns her. Rebekah Del Rio is gone, but her voice, her most sacred gift, still echoes in every space where hearts break and healing begins. Born in Chula Vista, California, Del Rio's love for music began early. By the early 1990s, she had moved to Nashville and was building a career in country music. But it was a Spanish-language version of Roy Orbison's Crying, titled Llorando, that would become her signature and eventually change her life. The song, steeped in grief and longing, caught the attention of filmmaker David Lynch, a meeting that would lead to one of the most iconic scenes in cinematic history. In Mulholland Drive, Del Rio appears in the enigmatic Club Silencio scene. She steps into the spotlight, singing Llorando, a cappella, her voice aching with emotion. As the characters sit in the audience, tears falling, the song becomes more than a performance. It becomes a revelation. Then, suddenly, she collapses. The music continues. The scene exposes the illusion of performance and the rawness of grief all at once. It is one of the most talked about, analyzed, and remembered moments in modern film, and it belonged entirely to Rebekah Del Rio. That moment cemented her legacy. She became known not just as a singer, but as a symbol of heartbreak, mystery, and beauty. She later appeared in Twin Peaks: The Return, once again working with Lynch, where her haunting vocals added a layer of sorrow and transcendence to the surreal world of the series. She also contributed to the soundtracks of other films, released several albums, and continued to perform with a quiet grace that stayed true to who she was. But behind the stage lights and the silver screen, Rebekah was also a mother, a friend, and a woman who knew real sorrow. She had spoken publicly about the pain of losing her son to cancer, a grief she carried with her always. That pain often found its way into her voice, into every note she sang. Her music wasn't just performance, it was therapy, remembrance, prayer. Her renditions of songs like Hallelujah were not just covers. They were acts of mourning and resilience. Those who knew her personally describe her as deeply compassionate and fiercely authentic. She wasn't interested in fame for fame's sake. What mattered to her was emotional truth, connection, and the ability to move someone to tears or healing through the power of voice. She once said that she didn't just sing songs, she told stories, and perhaps that's why her work resonated so deeply. She didn't need elaborate production or flashy arrangements. She needed only her voice, that trembling, aching, unforgettable voice. Her passing has left a profound silence in the hearts of those she touched. Fans have shared memories of hearing her for the first time, of being moved to tears without even understanding the language she was singing in. That was her magic. She bypassed the mind and went straight to the soul. As tributes pour in from musicians, filmmakers, and audiences around the world, one theme remains consistent: gratitude. Gratitude for her artistry, her honesty, her willingness to channel heartbreak into something beautiful. She reminded people that there is power in sadness, that beauty often lives inside pain, and that sometimes the most moving performances come not from perfection, but from sincerity. Rebekah Del Rio leaves behind a legacy far beyond one film scene or one song. She leaves behind a feeling, that tremble in the chest when emotion overtakes you, that pause in breath when something beautiful breaks your heart just a little. She gave the world not just her music, but her soul. And that kind of gift never fades. Her artistry wasn't about popularity or fame. It was about presence. A single performance from Rebekah could linger in your mind for years, not because it was flashy, but because it was raw, intimate, and true. Her voice had a spiritual quality to it, a haunting depth that could wrap itself around your sadness and hold it gently. She didn't just sing, she felt, and by feeling so deeply, she gave others permission to feel too. In her most iconic moment on screen, the Club Silencio scene in Mulholland Drive, Rebekah captivated not just the two characters seated in the front row of the shadowy club, but audiences around the globe. The way she delivered Llorando, standing alone under a dim spotlight, remains one of the most emotionally arresting scenes in modern cinema. There was no orchestra, no set pieces, just her voice. And in that moment, it didn't matter if you spoke Spanish or understood the lyrics. The heartbreak was universal. That's what made her so rare, her ability to cross boundaries, of language, of genre, of medium, and connect directly to something universal. Grief, longing, beauty, pain, healing. Her performances weren't just for your ears, they were for your soul. But her impact went far beyond that single moment. Throughout her career, Rebekah continued to collaborate with filmmakers, composers, and fellow musicians who recognized in her something elemental, a vocal truth that couldn't be taught or replicated. She lent her voice to powerful ballads, movie soundtracks, and independent projects that all carried her unique emotional fingerprint. She released albums that combined haunting melodies with deeply personal themes. She explored love, loss, spirituality, and transformation in her music, often drawing from her own life's painful chapters. After the tragic loss of her son, Rebekah's music took on an even more profound weight. Her performances of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, for example, were known to reduce audiences to tears. You could feel the ache in every line, not staged, not performed, but lived. In interviews, she often spoke about music as healing. For her, singing wasn't just performance, it was prayer, a way to connect with something bigger than herself, a way to turn personal suffering into collective solace. And in doing so, she gave her audiences the rarest thing of all: permission to grieve, to hope, and to heal. Her death at 57 feels far too soon for a voice so timeless, and yet her artistry now becomes something eternal. Her voice, captured in recordings and immortalized in cinema, continues to travel, touching new listeners, new generations, long after her final breath. That's the miracle of music. And in Rebekah's case, it's also the miracle of authenticity, because when you sing from the soul, your voice never truly disappears. He gave us joy, and he did it wearing overalls and a smile. The Ernest P. Worrell fan community shared heartfelt posts, praising Sartain's role as Chuck and how his chemistry with Jim Varney created some of the most underrated comedy gold of the 80s. Actors from Mississippi Burning and Fried Green Tomatoes also paid tribute, noting that Gaylord had a special ability to make serious sets lighter, without ever losing focus or respect for the work. Gaylord was married to Mary Jo Sartain for over 36 years. The couple had 3 children, Sarah, Esther, and Ben. And he was also a proud grandfather and great-grandfather. In his final years, Sartain retired from acting but continued painting, spending time with family, and giving back to the Oklahoma art scene. His family said he passed peacefully in his sleep, with music playing softly and a sketchbook by his side. Gaylord Sartain didn't chase stardom. He chased authenticity. Whether as a backwoods character on a country show or a supporting actor in a major film, he never failed to bring soul to the screen. His voice, his expressions, and even his silences had something deeply human about them. And while the world may remember him most for laughter, those who knew him best remember a humble artist, a kind soul, and a man who always gave more than he took. As his wife so perfectly said, everyone has a Gaylord story that they tell with a smile. Keep telling his stories. So we will. Rest in peace, Gaylord Sartain. The laughter you gave us will echo for generations.